Welcome, age of vintage society. It's hard to think of too many actors or directors with more extraordinary lives and careers than Clint Eastwood. The superstar is a genuine movie icon, particularly in an era where that term can be overspent. There's no doubt that Eastwood has accomplished a lot with his time in Hollywood and beyond. How Clint Eastwood built a net worth of $375 million. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Clint Eastwood, the man with no shame. Growing up, Clint Eastwood's mother said of her tall and handsome son, "It's a shame he wasn't born rich, because he could have had so much fun." She was probably right, although he probably wouldn't now be worth about $375 million if he didn't have to work so hard for it. Born during the Great Depression, Eastwood grew up with a transient family, his parents taking odd jobs in different places to make ends meet, travelling along the West Coast down roads that would finally bring a young Eastwood to his first acting roles. Eastwood was born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930, to Clinton Sr. and Ruth Eastwood in San Francisco, California. His nickname in the hospital was Samson because he weighed a whopping 11 pounds 6 ounces. He has one younger sister, Jean. He has a famous ancestor. He is of English, Irish, Scottish and Dutch ancestry. One of the interesting facts about Clint Eastwood is that he is a descendant of Mayflower passenger William Bradford. Clint Eastwood is the 12th generation that was born in the family line of William Bradford in North America. The Mayflower was a British ship that transported the first English Puritans, known today as the Pilgrims, to the New World. It brought about 102 passengers and 30 crew members from Plymouth in England to North America in the year 1620. He was expelled from high school. When he was growing up, Eastwood's family lived in a nice area, had a swimming pool and belonged to a country club in Piedmont, California. There Eastwood attended Piedmont High School until he was expelled for tearing up a wet football field with his bike. Eastwood probably didn't care. He hated school and was already held back during middle school for bad grades. Plus he got to enroll in Oakland Technical High School, where he got to work with his hands. Eastwood worked odd jobs during and after high school with stints as a hay baler, logger, truck driver and steel furnace stoker. In 1950 he was drafted into the US Army and was stationed at Fort Ord on the Monterey Peninsula, where he served as a swimming instructor. He was drafted into the Korean War, except he didn't fight, nor did he want to. According to Clint Eastwood, a biography by Richard Schickel, Eastwood tried to get out of the draft by calling the draft board and saying he was just about to enter college. No dice. Not wanting to be in the army in the first place, and much less so during wartime, Eastwood and a friend finagled their way into lifeguarding at Fort Ord in California rather than going overseas. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Eastwood's films are often about heroic survival in the face of incredible odds, and he doesn't just talk the talk. Eastwood himself has been in some near-death experiences. He survived a jet crash landing. Then coming back to Fort Ord from Seattle, Eastwood hitched a ride on a Douglas AD bomber, an old plane from World War II. That plan? Not the best one. As Eastwood recalled, everything went wrong. Radios went out, oxygen ran out, and finally we ran out of fuel up around Point Reyes, California, and went into the ocean. So we went swimming. It was late October-November, very cold water. I found out many years later that it was a white shark breeding ground, but I'm glad I didn't know that at the time, or I'd have just died. He and the pilot had to swim 3.2 kilometres, 2 miles, to reach safety. As a young actor, he had no idea how to act. Eastwood made a friend at Fort Ord who had contacts in Hollywood, and sometime around 1953 or 1954 he met with a Universal Studios contract director, Arthur Lubin, who was struck by his good looks. But Eastwood had no idea how to talk, move, or, act. Luckily, this contract director was working for a new production studio that searched for and trained new talent. Eastwood was hired on with a provisional 7-year learning contract at $75 a week. Eastwood thought acting would be easy. According to Schickel's biography, Eastwood had a basic aversion to hard work. Eastwood's longtime friend and producer, Fritz Maines, theorised to Schickel that Eastwood got into acting so he didn't have to work so hard, saying, "I don't think he wanted to do something that was too taxing. I don't think he realised how taxing acting was." Eventually Eastwood had learned enough to start getting bit roles in films. Eastwood's first working contract with Universal upped his pay to $100 a week for 20 weeks, with extensions up to 6 months. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $916 a week in today's money. His first bit part was in a terrible movie. Did you know they made a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, called Revenge of the Creature in 1954? And did you know it was Eastwood's film debut? Granted, it was in an uncredited bit part as a lab assistant who misplaces a lab rat. As for the movie, it was bad enough to get its own Mystery Science Theatre 3000 episode. Universal fired him because of his Adam's apple. When Eastwood started working for them, Universal hated his stiff acting and his habit of talking through his teeth when he said his lines, even though this became something like his trademark. In 1959, about 5 years after Universal hired him, they fired him. Eastwood had landed only bit, uncredited roles in 9 out of 11 movies during his time with Universal, although he did get third billing in the 1958 film Ambush at Crimson Pass. Eastwood later called this probably the lousiest western ever made. But according to thickly moustached actor Burt Reynolds, Eastwood wasn't fired because of his lacking filmography, as he told Larry King. "I went under contract to Universal in 1958 and was fired in 1959. I always tell the story that we were fired the same day, but we weren't. We were fired the same year, and he was fired because his Adam's apple stuck out too far. He talked too slow, and he had a chipped tooth, and he wouldn't get it fixed. And I said, 'Why are you firing me?' And they said, 'You can't act.' I said to Clint, 'You know, you are really screwed because I can learn how to act. You can't get rid of that Adam's apple.'" He didn't want to play Superman. Could you imagine Eastwood running into a phone booth, changing out from a suit and into red and blue spandex, and then flying off to fight crime? Neither could he. Eastwood turned down the role in the original Superman film in 1978, allowing Christopher Reeve to play the part. Eastwood also declined to take the role of 007 when Sean Connery almost didn't do Diamonds Are Forever. He also turned down Apocalypse Now, where he would have replaced Martin Sheen. No one knows just how many children he has. Maybe not even him. According to a 2012 documentary, meanwhile, the number of children fathered by Clint Eastwood is unknown, with the possibility given that the actor first became a father as early as high school. Nobody, including Eastwood's biographer, has landed on an official number of Eastwood children. Seemingly not even Clint is sure how many kids he's spawned. After David Letterman said to Eastwood in 2009, "You have, is it 7 children?" Eastwood responded with, at least. Eastwood's 8 official kids come from a total of 7 women. Eastwood, certainly wasn't afraid of sowing his seed.